Hello, this is Africa Investing Stories. Today we have a guest from all the way over from Sweden who went to live in Kenya, and he has now returned back to Sweden. He has plans to relocate partly back to Kenya for his love of Africa. He's invested his time in the art of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, otherwise known as BJJ. He's taught many famous MMA Brazilian martial artists, which we shall get into later. He's a very care of the community, both at home and abroad. He raises money for good causes, and he tells me he's that good that out of every 10 applications, he gets 7 okay. So this is a man that you will want to know whether you're a lady or a man, to be honest. Anyway, I'm your host, Simon Rushton, and I would like to introduce, without further ado, Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
Okay. So tell me, what made you come to Africa?
Yeah, it was a relationship that made me come to Africa, and then by an accident, because we were forced to stay a longer time to get visa and permit to Sweden to be able to travel together. So I chose to stay, primarily Mombasa, and then my wife then was pregnant, and my son was born, and he was born before we had a visa permission to Sweden. So yeah, in the end, it became a pretty long stay in Mombasa.
How long would you say that stay was?
I was there about 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, audience, I actually met Andrew when I was out there, and I don't really recall how we met, but I know with my gym that I was running at the time, he shared his expertise in the BBJ world. So Andrew's, what I'm saying here is Andrew's form of investment has not necessarily been finance per se, it's been life skills, which argumentatively is probably the most valuable investment you can give anybody, because you've got 40 years plus of life skills in a certain discipline, and everybody knows after 10,000 hours you're an expert. So if you've been doing something day in, day out, like Andrew has, he has a lot to offer. So tell us about the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world in Kenya. How was that for you?
Since I had a lot of time while I was there, I was working some for a Swedish organization on a distance. So I'm writing projects, plans, and stuff like that. So, but besides that, I had a lot of time during the time my wife was pregnant. So I was thinking a little bit about what I could do. And not in a commercial sense, more in a sense where if I could add something to the community over there. So what I did was I contacted some gyms in the Mombasa area, and I had an idea of me offering some services like private training and making a deal with the gym that I could offer those kind of services for some of their customers if I could use the facilities and to be able to run a club in the evening, but without any charge for people that has that kind of interest. So basically, that's how we met, Seven. I think I sent the mail to you, where I told you a little bit about my background, and I asked if my skills could be interesting for your gym in some way. But behind that, I had an idea of trading my time and against time in the gym or in the facilities that I could use to train young people that wanted to try this kind of sport, but not necessarily had any money. And as a result of that, partially at least, there is a club running now in Mombasa, and that's one of two clubs in Kenya, and they have been making a lot of progress, and they have been winning gold in Tanzania in competitions, in Uganda. They have also competed in Nairobi, where the other club is.
So if it would be fair to say, out of your goodness and your kindness of your heart, you've built something where you have a legacy of the BJJ world.
Yeah, I don't know goodness, kindness. I just think that if you can offer something to people and that adds something to their life, and you have the time, you have the possibilities to do it, so why not? Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, it's also the sport was attracting people from different groups in society. So we had some people from an area called Kisauni that some people would label as like a socioeconomic problematic area, and then you have some people from another area called Niali, which is like, I would say, where the most privileged people in Mombasa lives in generally. And the meeting between these two groups has been very fruitful, because one thing that many young people from socioeconomic vulnerable areas miss is connections out to the working market, connections, and the Kenyan working market is also very colored by the fact you need connections. So the bonds that's been created through sport has created new possibilities for many of the people that join the club.
Yeah. When you say connections, can you expand on that for our listeners, please?
Yeah. So you have in Sweden you talk about social and cultural capital. It means that, like, social and cultural capital means that a person that has a great social and cultural capital has a lot of connections out in society, and maybe in key places in society, which means that person has great possibilities to make him or herself a career, or live a life that fulfills that person's needs. If you lack social and cultural capital, then your possibilities are less. My English is somewhat limited, so if I would explain this in Swedish, it's very easy for me.
Yeah, you're saying limited is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, but as a result of the relationships that was created through the sport, and that still is created through the sport, with people that belong from different groups in society, I would say it has increased everyone's social and cultural capital, and it has also created possibilities for income, because since the club started, now they have also now gone into youth training, young people, like small children and kids and stuff like that. And then in that, it creates possibilities for people to become trainers, to also get a salary for that. There is other possibilities. It has created, people has attended judge seminars and had educated themselves to judges, which is a good thing, because then they can become hired by international organizations that needs judges, and especially organizations that wants to create competitions on the African continent. So there's a lot of like added values that we can speak a lot about when it comes to this. It was an interesting development, because you did something really good there. You were very open-minded, and you offered space and time for this group to grow. And after that, since then, they have grown, and today it's a really strong group, and it's the amount of people training is growing all the time.
How many people would you say they have right now training?
You know, when we started, it was like 3 or 4 people, I would say. Now, I would say it's more than 50.
Okay. And what's the name of this facility? So if anybody wants to look it up, they could.
Shark Jiu Jitsu Mombasa.
Sorry?
Shark Jiu Jitsu Mombasa.
Shark use in Mombasa.
Okay, Shark Jiu Jitsu Mombasa. Okay. That's the name on Facebook.
Okay, it's good, because it's appropriate based on the fact that they're by the coast and there are sharks in that sea out there.
Yeah, and they have been praised a lot by people from other countries also, because when they were over to Tanzania, they were very. It was in the beginning of on their career, so to speak. They were doing really, really good in the competition over there. So I think that already they are respected for having a good standard. I also try to talk to people here in Stockholm and Sweden about or inform them that there is a club in Mombasa, and which creates maybe will create a situation where people travel from here to there, because if you're into this kind of sports, you're very it's very important that you have the ability to do them even when you're on vacation. So I think that Mombasa is ideal place to travel to, actually, because it's cheap. The trips are cheap from Sweden, and the weather is fantastic. The beaches and everything else is fantastic. So I think that we will see a development in just a couple of years, where people from Sweden and hopefully other parts of Europe that are interested in this kind of sports will choose Mombasa as a place where they have their vacation.
Okay.
Which also will create new possibilities for the people that runs the club. Yeah.
Privately, what was life like for you in Mombasa in Kenya?
I think it was
great. A typical day? What would you do on a typical day?
Typical day was, beside all the things that was needed to be done when it came to, because first my wife was pregnant, and then our son was born in Mombasa. So beside the course that was connected to the child, I would say I was writing, but a part of the day I was writing, maybe 1 hour, 1.5, on my computer through internet. And then when I started with the training, then after that, I also spent some time in the afternoon, generally, on training.
So your company that you were working for in Sweden were comfortable with you living overseas and doing what you were doing?
It was an organization. I was a CEO, so it was a little bit problematic, the situation. So what happened was, for a while, I took leave from my work, and I did some of the things that I did when I was working in Sweden. But after a while, it came to a situation where I quit my job, because the organization needed more attention than I could give on a distance. So so instead of slowing the organization down, I choose to quit my job in Sweden.
So you loved Mombasa that much that you quit your job? Okay, that's good. What was one of the big? Now you're in Sweden. What was one of the biggest things that you missed when you're
from Sweden?
Yeah,
I think that it depends on where you live and under which conditions you live in Mombasa. I would say that if you have a steady income, and if you live in a fairly nice area, you have the possibility to live a really, really good life with things that you can't get in Sweden, because of the weather, because of the closeness to the ocean, because of those kind of things.
So when you say things you can't get in Sweden, you're more referring to the environment more than other physical things.
Yeah, and then I will also say that the social climate between people is also something that I really appreciated. I would say that Sweden is in some people's eyes known for being a little bit cold. I mean, even the relationships between people, the communication is a little bit narrow, I would say, compared to Kenya in general. So I think there is a joyfulness in the communication that I experienced that I really, really appreciate. And that I still miss. When my wife and me married, the person that was in charge of the marriage, he made a joke during the ceremony, which is not something that would rarely happen in Sweden. So I think it's
So it's fair to say that they have more of a laid-back, chilled attitude.
Yeah, and sometimes that, but also joyfulness in the communication, where people make jokes. Yeah.
Okay. What was the most valuable lesson you learned?
You know, I'm gonna sound very Kenya patriotic now, but I revisited Kenya for a couple of weeks ago, and directly when I landed with the plane, and I felt these smells, it really felt like I was coming home in some sense. So I think that the stay for me has been has affected me on a deeper level than I thought before. And
So you're saying something spiritual there for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there, if you want to compare with things that is not the, you can make different kind of comparisons. I think that the infrastructure in Sweden is better. So those kind of things, some of those kind of things are better in Sweden.
So,
but we also live in a situation where you if the radiator don't work, people can die. So we're living in a cold country here.
Mm-hmm.
So
what I'm getting at, Andrew, is is there a valuable lesson that you learn, whether it's dealing with people, dealing with the environment, or both, something along their lines? Like
I've been fortunate to work in different parts of society in Sweden. So I would say that I kind of feel home in a lot of different parts of society. I don't have any problem to visit different rooms, so to speak. So for me, creating social relationship to people there was fairly easy, I would say. So it has a lot to do with how you are as a person yourself. Okay. I have also met people that also only like focus on differences and stuff like that compared to what they used to. And yeah, of course you can find that, but I think that I've been extremely people has been extremely friendly against me, towards me, and the relationships that was built during the time with the people with the sport, they are still there, so I get continuous updates, and we have ongoing communication all the time. So
yeah. You wish you had moved to Kenya earlier, in the younger years?
I wish I had moved to Kenya with during different circumstances. If I had moved to Kenya and in advance known that I would stay there for a long time, maybe I had been able to set up a business that would give me fairly good income, and if that was the case, then I probably wouldn't stay much longer. I would say, because and you also asked if I have learned anything. I've learned a lot of things. I would say that the Western society is a little bit ethnocentric in general. Since the economy is good in the Western society, people tend to simplify things and see the rest of the world through a narrow perspective. I would say that the life quality for my son was extremely good in Kenya, because we had the ability to have a big family close in a way which is very rare in Sweden. So I think that if you think about that part of the social climate, I would say that Kenya is way ahead in comparison to Sweden, where a lot of people live alone, far away many times from their parents or grandparents. So the social climate becomes different. I also think that it's much better for a young person to grow up under those kind of circumstances. I have been growing up in a way where I've been living alone a lot, and I think that to have that big family close in the way where many people has in Kenya, I would say it's something that people here can learn from. Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, in industrialization and things um, been a part of the development that today looks like it does in the Western society. But I think that there is a lot of things that you experience in Kenya that can really make you stop and think about, okay, is there other ways to do things on? Because now I think that many people that live in the Western society, they don't question the Western society because of the economical progresses that's been made, partially on behalf of the African continent. It's important to say also. So I mean, yeah.
How did your family feel about you moving out to Africa? Was
The
that an
Swedish
issue?
part.
Yeah.
No, I know. You know, I have been growing up in suburbs in Sweden, which means that I've been growing up in a mixed environment. So I think that many of my friends comes from the African continent and stuff like that. So I think that no, they were not. There was no comments about that. Maybe the fact that I was driving a motorbike was stressing some family members because I always do that.
Yeah. How has your mindset changed before and after?
Already before, I was, you know, one of the greatest things I would say that I take with me from that time was the fact that I was in a situation where I had the ability, and you can also say was forced to be present during the first period of my son's life. Because I think that if I'd been living in Sweden, I would be working a lot to finance the family and stuff like that. And it wouldn't have been as easy for me to create the kind of attachment that I was able to create when I was living there. But that was nothing that was planned. So that was something that I learned during the time I was there. And I also think that it affected me in a way which was very beneficial for him, his and my relationship. But here it's different, you know, especially as a man in general. You have your views of what you as a man should do for the family, and that often is like that often includes to work hard and so on and so on. And I think that there's other things also. That's one thing I learned from having the possibility and also being in a situation which made it possible for me to be present like I was.
Would you advise someone who wants to invest in Africa? In other words, what would you say to someone who said they want to invest in Africa?
Yeah, I can't speak for whole Africa. I can. My experience is also in some way limited because I wasn't there as an investor. What I learned from people around me is that the only problem people can meet is that bribery. That some people want to have bribes. So I would say that is possibly the as an investor, a potential problem. It can be a potential problem.
Would you have any advice for how they can overcome that?
You know, I wasn't suffering from this. I wouldn't go into that because my experiences from that is somewhat limited. I think that there is big companies. There is like you have big Swedish companies, Scania, for example, truck company that sells a lot of trucks in Kenya, and I think that there is a huge knowledge. If you look at the institutions or if the big companies that's already there. And I think that as an investor, I think that you can be helped by the embassy and I don't know what the English word, it's called the Chamber of Commerce in Sweden, I guess. Yeah. So the Chamber of Commerce in Sweden has a list of companies, individuals, organizations that are investing or has been investing in Kenya for a long time. And I think that you, through those channels, can be prepared and have great possibilities to be successful.
Okay.
I had an idea for a while I was there, because I didn't know how long I was going to be there. So I had an idea that I was thinking about realizing, which it was about transportation. It was about environmental, clean transportation. And while I was investigating the possibilities for that idea, to realize that idea, I was in connection with some other people that had invested, and I also was given a list of connections that I could use in Kenya from the Swedish Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, but then since we got notice that we were able to travel back to Sweden, then I didn't follow up on that idea. Yeah.
Would you say to someone that they need a degree or higher education to invest in Kenya?
Higher education?
Yeah. Would you say to somebody that they need a degree or higher education to invest in Kenya?
No, I don't think so. I think that you have to know your subject, and then people with higher education, you can buy those kind of resources. So I don't think a lot of the people that are very successful in Kenya, landowners and so on and so on, they are just good businessmen. They are not high educated. So no, I don't think that education is a key.
Okay. If you had to do it all again, would you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. If my situation was different with my son, now he's intertwined here with the Swedish system already. But if the situation was different, I could easily live in Kenya, easily, without any problems. I would gladly do that. But then the things that would be key for me to do that was that it was have the ability to have my son close, and then also to have a steady income. Yeah,
understand. Well, thanks for your time, Andrew. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot from your experiences. Should anybody want to find you, are you on social media or anything like that you want to give out?
Yeah, but Oh, maybe we can do that. They can contact you if it's okay.
Okay, not a
Yeah.
problem. Okay, well, thanks again.
Yeah, and if they want